Hello, my name is Trey Saflin, and this is my History 101 final. My topic is Spartans versus Athens. This is my introduction paragraph. This presentation was created to show the difference between what I knew at the time before taking History 101 and after learning about the Peloponnesian War and how that affected my entire view on the event that had happened against the Spartans and the Athenians and what I learned from it. So let's get right into it. What I knew about the Spartans before taking this course was that they were brave, loyal soldiers who fought for their country. They originated from ancient Greece, had strict rules in their society, spoke in Latin, and they were part of a war. But what I learned was that Spartans were known for their brutality and their loyal among their leaders. Sparta was created when Spartans conquered a small part of Greece and they established it as their own land. This culture was rated to be one of the most militarized cultures throughout history. And most times when Spartan boys were born, they were taken from their parents and to serve life within the barracks, learning how to become a soldier for their country. And within Volume 1 of Western Civilization states that they were regularly beaten, both as a form of discipline to make them unafraid from pain. Children with deformities and any kinds were left in the elements to die, as children were maimed by the training regimen, showing the amount of pain that such a child would have to go through. Crazy amount of teaching. Like, their entire ways of training is crazy. Just being able, like, you were having to filter out the kids that weren't as athletic, that weren't as special as others. So in other words, if you weren't perfect, you were basically born to die, which is insane when learning about this. Going towards the Athens side of things, they were what I knew before this was that they were famous architects, known for their buildings, especially the Pantheon right there. They were against Sparta. That's all I knew. They owned slaves, had a fair government, believed in democracy, and they had a social stratification. So they had basically split of middle class, upper class, lower class, kind of had roles within society. And what I found out what they actually were through lessons and teachings was that Athenians were mostly evolved during their time. So they were really advanced more than other countries during their time. They created art, music, drama, while also creating literature for the libraries that they owned, along with creating their own literature and spreading it around the world, towards Egypt as well. Athenians were major in trade in the Mediterranean Sea and controlled a large amount of trade flow during their time, because they were a world power during their time. They were also known to be, they had political differences and argued among each other. This was when debating was kind of born, specifically the time when aristocrats were taking over most of the political debates by setting rules that didn't allow lower classes to participate. This broke out and caused a massive fight between both sides during 600 BCE. Because of the aristocrats owned so much of the land throughout Greece, forced farmers to work on their land. Even too many of the farmers were indebted to aristocrats and in the Western Civilization, Volume 1 stated that the Athenian law, anyone who could not pay off his or her debts would legally be enslaved, which sounds like just work with a whole nother layer. Like, if you can't fill in for your shift or you can't do anything, then you're just now a slave to this random person just because you couldn't complete your entire debt. And which caused a loophole to occur, and many Athenian citizens were being enslaved to pay his or her debts off. Sounds like a very corrupted system. They had democracy. They allowed people to vote. This was kind of like early stage democracy. But as time continued, it got more corrupted. There was all this when people appointed an aristocrat politician to serve as a tyrant and reform the institution by canceling all debts, which completely eradicated the slave system among the Athenians. They just basically wiped the entire system full of history, knowing that if some people had debts that would have been wiped, they would have been clean slate, allow them to restart. And with all that being said, that kind of got rid of all slavery throughout their country. And moving into Sparta, with the Peloponnesian War, I thought it was just a war between the Athenians and Spartans to claim territory. Pretty basic. I really never knew much about the Peloponnesian War, but it really interested me. I know a lot about the Spartans, but the Athenians I lacked on. But moving into the Peloponnesian War, what I did learn about this was that it was a war that occurred after the Persian War, and the Athenians were able to defeat the Persians with the help of Sparta, and the Athenians pulled victorious and fostered their ego in the process. The Western Civilization Volume 1 stated that the Greeks were filled with confidence and superiority of their own form of civilization. With the control of Polis, helped Greece fund their own projects and expanded their civilization along with control. So, and with the downfall of Persia came the Delian League, which was a league that was created from the entire Persian War after the Athenians conquered Persia, which was a political party created to protect Athens from further Persian interference. Athenians became a dominant power in the Delian League. They were also able to control the Delian League due to their powerful navy. This allowed Athens simply to extract more money from imposing political control in other polis, which that sounds completely corrupted in my opinion. They decided to fund themselves, completely redo their entire navy, empower themselves, and now that they have control not only over the entire system themselves, but they've also assigned a loophole to be able to fund themselves from other countries, basically taking money in a legal quote-unquote system. During this time, Sparta was the head of another league called the Peloponnesian League, which probably was where the entire war named originated, which was founded before the Persian War as a mutual protection league, which sounds great, especially knowing that they're allied powers. They basically protect each other against other sort of leagues that were to interfere with anything, which was founded before the Persian War as a mutual protection league. Although Sparta did not take advantage of their allies in the same way that Athens did, Sparta was resentful when viewing the Athenian power and feared it. This was when all war broke out in 431 BCE between both world powers during this era. So overall, the Spartans did not like on how the Athenians were taking things. They decided to step in and destroy this world power before it got any bigger. And in my opinion, I do not question them. They had the right in doing that, because over time the Athenians became corrupted and they needed to not take over the entire Mediterranean Sea through trade routes. That would just spread the corruption even further than ever. In conclusion, my opinion, the large portion of the war consisted of Athens becoming power-hungry. After the Persian War, this had corrupted the Athenians along with their political parties. Even too, this had affected the outside countries by creating a loophole which forced the countries to fund Athens. Although, for those who did not follow these legal terms, would become an enemy to the Athenians. But during this time, the Spartans could see right through them and saw how driven and exploited these allies were. So, Sparta at the current time was an ally, but realized how corrupted this entire thing was and decided to split off, and not only split off, but fight against it. And the Spartans feared the political system in many ways and were against it. This caused a war to break out between them and involved many more countries in the World Power War, which escalated very fast, in my opinion. This war entirely had escalated if Athenians weren't as corrupted as they were from the beginning. Creating slave loopholes, creating different ways of how aristocrats can get away with things, and creating different laws and testimonies to be able to assert different laws and systems for others to fund them, quote unquote, especially because of how powerful they are at this current time. It was no other choice. They were giving every country no other choice but to fund them, and that just made them even more powerful, which that was a hard decision for anyone to be in. And these are my citations. I used the Western Civilization document that my wonderful professor provided, and I also used the Wikipedia Foundation to be able to cite my sources through different documents, so I even included that as well. Thank you.